Hello and welcome to Lecture 10, the final lecture in this module. In this module, I've explored the global spread of the English language, how it functions today as a global lingua franca, and the implications of the changing sociolinguistic landscape of English, which has implications for both how we teach the English language today and also how we teach in English in EMI settings. The lectures have illustrated that language change is both a natural and normal phenomenon, and change to the English language is most certainly not a new occurrence. I examined what a global Englishese perspective looks like and the relevance of this for EMI, looking at language-related challenges, the role of the English language, and also EMI curriculum design and evaluation. A key point I want to make in this module is that the global spread of English into higher education, particularly via the phenomenal growth in EMI, has not been a spread in a native version of the language, but English as a lingua franca. Global Englishese language teaching, GELT, was introduced in the field of English language teaching to address the mismatch between what was being taught in the English language classroom and how the English language functions outside of the classroom as a global lingua franca. Taking a GELT, or what Jenkins has called an ELF perspective in higher education, can also help address concerns such as domain loss and inequalities stemming from the spread of EMI. Indeed, as noted, GELT includes the promotion of taking a critical approach to the use and spread of English. As Jenkins notes, if university managements had greater awareness of ELF and were less concerned to promote native-like English in their institutions, many of the inequalities relating to EMI would be speedily resolved. Students come from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds, and much can be learned about the sociolinguistic landscape of EMI campuses and classrooms from the growing body of global Englishese research that showcases how the language is used today as a lingua franca. Adopting a GELT perspective aids in the movement away from native-like norms and monolingual targets. However, recent research into nations which made the early switch to English education, like Sweden, have indicated a return to first language use in higher education, particularly with parallel language use. As Jenkins notes, one of the key issues that needs to be explored is what proficiency means, or should mean, in a setting that is, by definition, an ELF rather than a native English setting, and therefore also, by definition, a multilingual setting. In EA3, I highlighted that many of the challenges to EMI relate to English proficiency and how we measure competence. And it's hoped that more research will explore both the use of English in EMI settings and the relevance of native norms for these growing ELF concepts. It's clear from this module that standard English ideology prevails, but it's also clear that English is a language that's changed over time. It's unclear why a version of the language spoken by a small majority of speakers continues to be promoted as a standard and as a benchmark of proficiency. Taking a GELT perspective may also have a positive effect on the confidence of L2 speakers of the language, enabling them to see themselves as legitimate speakers of a global language. Another area in need of closer examination is entry tests to EMI programs. Tests such as IELTS and TOEFL based on standard native English are not reflective of how students will use the language in both the classroom and in their future. In terms of language then, we need to critically examine the use of language in EMI. While EMI clearly has close links with developing English proficiency, by definition it's a tool to deliver subject knowledge and therefore as a tool for communication intelligibility and communication of ideas then seem more important than adherence to a strict native standard. This would also be more reflective of how the language is used today. Increased interest in linguistic diversity in EMI and increased interest in global English's research provides a wealth of information for those conducting needs analysis. Translanguaging has been well received in the field, and an increasing number of global English's research are involved in EMI work exploring the use of language in these settings. I'd like to end with a quote from Kirkpatrick, who notes that successful internationalisation will require the adoption of systematic and coherent EMI policies that recognise the multilingual nature of the respective settings by not only recognising the role of English as an academic lingua franca, but also by encouraging the use of local languages in teaching and learning and as languages of education and scholarship. So that concludes Lecture 10, the final lecture in this course. This course has focused on the globalisation of the English language, drawing on research in the global English's paradigm that showcases how the English language functions today as a global lingua franca. Our students are likely to use the English language as a lingua franca with interlocutors from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds, and this use of English needs to be considered in EMI curriculum evaluation and design. Thank you very much for watching.